This House is in session. Minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, 19th April 2022 and Tuesday, 26th April 2022 to be confirmed. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be confirmed.
The question is that the aforementioned minutes be confirmed. All those in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby confirmed.
Messages from Her Excellency the President. Petitions, papers. Carry.
Honourable Member St. James Central. Honourable Member St. Joseph.
Speaker, I'm commanded to lay the annual report for the year 2020 of the Police Complaints Authority.
Government notices.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to give notice of a resolution to approve, in accordance with Section 5 of the Crown Lands Vesting and Disposal Act, Cap 225, the lease to the Barbados National Oil Company Limited of a parcel of land, the property of the state, situated at Ferry Valley in the parish of Christchurch in this island, for the purpose of a solar photovoltaic power plant and a battery storage system.
Private members' notices. Notices of questions. Reports from select committees. First reading of bills.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the first reading of the Airport Service Charge Bill 2022.
Question is that the aforementioned bill be read the first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
Statements by ministers. Congratulatory and obituary speeches. First reading of bills recommitted.
Honourable Member St. Philip South.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the first reading of the Animal Disease and Importation Amendment Bill 2022.
The question is that the aforementioned bill be read the first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those
Beg
against,
the
please
second.
say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
I beg to second.
Statements by ministers. Congratulatory and or obituary speeches. Personal explanations. Motions for leave of absence. Oral replies to questions. Notice of motions for adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance. Orders of the day.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, subsection 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of today's sitting.
The question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting.
Government business, sir.
Government business is the order of the day.
Is it?
Honourable Member for St. James Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir,
Hold a minute, sir. Order number 4, sir. In the name of the Honourable Minister of Energy and Business Development, to move the second reading of the Caves Amendment Bill 2022.
tell me when.
Honourable Member for St. James Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise this morning to treat to what on its face is a deceptively very simple matter. It is an act to amend the Caves Act, Chapter 389 of the Laws of Barbados, sir, and it will be called the Caves Amendment Act 2022 when completed. Effectively, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are looking at Section 2 of the Caves Act, and we are going to simply delete the word minister from the definition. And the reason why we do this, sir, is perhaps best explained by way of giving this some context. As with most things that have gone horribly awry in Barbados, sir, it finds its genesis in the last administration that governed this country. In 2014, but I am very serious. It is a painful and agonizing thing to have to say, but it is a truism nonetheless. In the year 2014, Mr. Speaker, sir, a policy decision was made to remove Harrison's Cave from under the portfolio of the Ministry of the Environment and to place it under the portfolio of the ministry responsible for tourism, where it has remained since that time. And that is all very well and good, sir, because Harrison's Cave is obviously the preeminent tourist attraction, not only in Barbados, it is actually the crown jewel of the Eastern Caribbean as far as tourism attractions go. And I will have more to say on that as I elaborate and expatiate on this particular bill. But, sir, the challenge was that the Caves Act was never amended at that time to reflect the change in the ministerial portfolio. And so, therefore, even though it seems like a very small amendment, Cabinet in 2019 under this administration, sir, we took the decision that we would provide for the control and management of the caves and related matters by way of an amendment to the Act, and we would treat to the question of the minister responsible, sir, by amending the Act so that you will no longer have it read as minister responsible for the environment, reflecting the portfolio under which the Caves of Barbados Limited then existed. After some reflection on the matter, the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, whose legal judgment in this matter is beyond doubt, recommended that under the Interpretation Act, Chapter 1 of the Laws of Barbados, there is already a definition of minister, meaning, and I will quote it, sir, minister means the Prime Minister or other minister for the time being, having responsibility for the subject matter of the enhancement in respect of which that expression is used. And therefore, it was the judgment and recommendation of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel that it would be prudent simply to delete the definition of minister and let the definition of the Interpretation Act apply. And that is what brings us here, sir, so that we do not have, with the changing of government or the changing of the mind of a prime minister from time to time, and that person who holds the office of prime minister exercising their purview to allocate portfolios as they choose, because any portfolio is the gift of he or she who governs, that you would not have to constantly come back and amend the Act if it falls no longer with tourism but fell somewhere else. You would have to go through this exercise again. So that is the reason why we have made this simple amendment by deletion of the definition of minister. Now, it would be easy, sir, for those of us who are uninitiated to say, there endeth the morning's lesson, thanks be to God, and I take my seat. But, sir, I have been around this place long enough now to know that precisely because we are treating to the pearl in the crown of tourism enterprises in this country. Precisely because, sir, it was a Labour Party administration in the first place that had the foresight to lead the charge of not only modernization, which we also did, but, sir, to create this very special heritage tourism product. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, precisely because it has attracted tremendous community and parochial interest in the parish and in the constituency of St. Thomas, where it resides, and, sir, by extension, because of the fact that it has been a major pillar of economic activity as tourism products can go, sought after by every cruise ship coming to this country. It is the first experience sought after by long-stay visitors in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir. For all of those very good reasons, I think it is important for me to expatiate a little bit on the issue of where we are with regard to the much publicized Chukka investment at Harrison's Cave. Now, let me also start by saying that it is always worthwhile to remind those who are inclined to quickly forget or inclined for their own narrow political purposes to misrepresent that which this government has done. I want to make it abundantly clear that this government still retains and will continue to retain ownership of Harrison's Cave. Chukka Caribbean Limited was invited after a public tender process to participate in this economy and to make investment in Harrison's Cave by way of product enhancement, Mr. Speaker, sir, attraction management, Mr. Speaker, sir, improving the heritage tourism product of the country, Mr. Speaker, sir, and to help us drive commercial revenue. That is the reason why we went out by way of public tender, and that tender, sir, was participated in by a slew of Barbadian tourism practitioners and some from overseas, as you can obviously tell, because Chukka began as a company that finds its origins, its genesis in Jamaica, but has been doing excellent business right across the Northern Caribbean and in the Eastern Caribbean as well. They have management of another cave experience, which is in Belize. They are in charge of, I think it is Dunn's River Falls in Jamaica. There are a number of them. And I would not take up the precious time of this Parliament, sir, by going through all of that. But having said what we were looking for, let me say to you, sir, that there were some Barbadian companies that participated, and we would have been the very happiest campers in the world if, when tenders had been opened, we had seen stuff other than that which was mundane. We would have been the happiest campers in the world, Mr. Speaker, sir, if we didn't open a tender and see that the future of Harrison's Cave as an attraction that had to be managed in accordance with best practices and a product that should be enhanced, that the approach to that, sir, would be to get new trams and run the trams for 24 hours a day if possible, so that you could put more people through the cave and carry them along on another experience after that experience was over. We will be the happiest campers in the world, Mr. Speaker, sir, if we were able to open tenders and find that the imagination of the private sector in this country was such that they were saying that they would do more than some adjustments in the roof of the waiting room, Mr. Speaker, sir. But that was the mundane. And it is disappointing. It is disappointing, sir, because the premier tourism destination in Barbados, in the Caribbean, is in fact, in this part of the Caribbean, is Barbados. And there's no doubt about that. And I don't say that in the spirit of braggadocio. I say it, sir, because we expect, therefore, that the principal players in tourism would step up to the plate and with the greatest degree of creativity, partner with government in an opportunity to make sure that this unique tourism attraction can be the best in class and hold along its head up alongside any in the world. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, having gone through the tender process, we came to the Chaka tender. And that tender, Mr. Speaker, sir, reflected a concept that you find almost impossible to resist. It is a concept, sir, that says, pause, government of Barbados. Do not see your cave as a stop for the tour bus on its way around the country during the course of the day. See your cave as an experience that will take up the whole day. See your cave not only as an experience in terms of an hour and a half, but see your experience as a family outing for an entire day. And how is that to be possible? It is possible by putting in place new experiences to complement that which already exists. It is possible, for example, to use the forestry, the trees in the area, so that you will have a zipline experience or several zipline experiences. It is possible, sir, because the cave sits in a sunken area, but we all know that there's an elevated aspect, that you can have a pontoon bridge which takes you across the beauty of the St. Thomas landscape. It is possible, Mr. Speaker, sir, because you can have eco-tours that complement the tour of the cave. It is possible, Mr. Speaker, sir, because of the fact that you can make sure that the family has an outing and things for the little children to do to keep them occupied all day long, such as obstacle courses to accommodate them, sir, as well as the zipline experience. It is possible, sir, because it can be a learning experience even as it is an adventure experience. And therefore, you have interaction, live interaction with the green monkeys, and you learn about that part of this country's ecological development. An aviary experience, again, learning about the country's development. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is possible because while there would be tour guides or assistants to look after the children as they're doing all of these things, mommy and daddy or gran and granddad can take a little bit of rest and spend the day doing something that they had a chance to do. To sit side by side at an infinity pool and hold hands under a cabana, if you please. To have a restaurant that works and functions from morning until night. Not that you got to rush and get your food quick before it shut at 3:30, 4 o'clock for the people to go on home, Mr. Speaker, sir. That was the reality of what Harrison's Cave was. And the challenge that we had was that there was an a government then, with a blinkered and unimaginative view of that which the best tourism product in the Caribbean could offer to the people, not only of Barbados, but the visitors to the shores of this region. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, sir, because of that absence of creativity, this economy, by extension, was forced to continue to languish because there was never during that decade, and they hate to hear it, but I will repeat it, as long as I can and as often as I possibly can, sir, and may it stick in their respective craws, that lost decade, sir, during which we squandered opportunity for development in this country. The question is asked, why can we not have, as part of the cave experience, where you have a floor that is 200 feet below the parking area? A giant slide that allows for the adults as well as the little children to spend a little bit of time having fun in this day-long experience. The question is asked, Mr. Speaker, sir, why is it that this is the country that founded rum? exported rum to the world. Ask anybody, where is the home of rum? It is Barbados. Mount Gay, Mr. Speaker, sir, will have an experience. Again, an opportunity for those who visit this country, not only to learn about mixology, but to learn about the history of the major product that this country has produced. And those things, Mr. Speaker, sir, then are married in turn with kiosks for sales, allowing members of the community to be able to come in and to sell their craft, whatever products they have, sir, to be part of an economic experience, sir, that allows for us to retain the cultural product of the country, allows for us, sir, to show off the heritage of the country, allows for us to teach our visitors about Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir, while at the same time managing that attraction in accordance with the best practices to be found internationally. And that is what the purpose of the Chukka, the decision behind settling with Chukka was. And I invite any Barbadian, loyal and true, to tell me that that cave in the land of our birth is not worthy of that approach to being managed. That the cave, that in the way that I just described it, sir, is not deserving of that level of attention, that level of reinvestment, and that approach, sir, to future management and future activities. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important to say that while all those things are going to be there, they will be part of the value added only, because it is the intention, sir, to retain the original experience. As I said, that experience stood on its own as being best in class. But our challenge, sir, was that we have always been challenged. And I can speak truthfully to this house today. I'm going to speak candidly with this chamber today as a minister with responsibility, oversight responsibility for the productive sector must. Because it is very important that we hold up a mirror to the people who sent us here so that they can see themselves and we can have a candid discussion about the direction that we are going and what we believe this country is capable of achieving, Mr. Speaker, sir. But at the same time, what are the impediments that stand in our way? And more importantly, we must do in this parliament that which all previous parliaments failed to do. And that is to speak to the people of Barbados about how we are going to remove those impediments without fear and without favor. And there will be those who will be angry about that which has to be said, I have no doubt, because they want to defend positions that they have had and enjoyed for not only decades, in some cases, hundreds of years. But equally, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to be candid with each other about what is necessary for us to remain competitive and where we have to go. And we cannot, Mr. Speaker, sir, take the next steps that we have to take without beginning a discussion about how we treat to the issue of commercial revenue. In this particular context, sir, the Cave of Barbados, more generally, commercial revenue at attractions and installations in this country that serve a touristic purpose. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, that for some people is a bad word. Let me start by saying that some of the new activities that I just talked about, I believe, and I obviously am no longer the minister, but I believe, sir, that some of those activities will probably begin to be available to the public from as early as next month. And I'm heartened by that. And as the thinking is that as you continue the experiences, and you're going to bring on stream more and more of the experiences which complement, as I said, lend additional value added to that which the cave was, and that once again, we will have an exciting experience and adventure, an attraction that people will not say, oh, I went there already. I sit down in the tram when the lights went off. I kissed my girlfriend. I think, why done with that there, man? Well, you see, same thing all the time. There has to be more. And you have to find ways, Mr. Speaker, sir, of creatively lending that additional value. It has to be a place, sir, where our young people now will go and take pictures of the activities they're participating in and generate via Instagram user content so that they, in turn, as they post it and send it to the friends all around the world, are marketing for us and for the cave, sir, in a way that we could never have done and could not and did not do because we had the technology. And even when we had the technology, we did not choose to master the technology 10, 15, and 20 years and more ago, Mr. Speaker, sir. And again, it takes us back to this bedeviling question of commercial revenue. We have, as I said, the preeminent attraction in the Eastern Caribbean. That attraction, up to the day that I left the Ministry of Tourism, employed about 60, 61 people. That's what the Cave employed. Now, it's impossible for me to understand why it is that the major attraction in Barbados could not be built out in such a way that you are blending more and more to what it is about and to what the experiences are that it offers, so that it becomes a fulcrum for more people to be required to report to work. That more of our constituents, the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, I share a border with her, and so therefore let me speak about the people in St. James Central. The Honourable Member for St. Joseph shares a border with her, the people from St. Joseph, Mr. Speaker, sir. The Honourable Member for St. John shares a border. Mr. Speaker, why is it that there are not more, and we were not doing more to get more Barbadians work at this preeminent tourism attraction? Because we became content that you have people coming off the tour boat, the cruise ship, and that they're going to go to the Cave anyhow. And that come what may, even if it's their third or fourth trip to Barbados, they can still go to the Cave because for some strange reason, we have convinced ourselves that you don't have to improve on nothing, you don't have to improve and expand the experience. People can just keep going there. And that is an exercise in folly. Because unless you continue to refine your product, it is an elementary proposition that you're going to start to lose your competitive edge. And you will lose your competitive advantage. Because there's always somebody out there who is looking to do better than what they're doing now, and they have an eye on you because they want to eat your lunch. Don't let us fool ourselves that nobody else in the Caribbean wants to be able to say, stand in the parliament of their country and beat their chest and say, in my land, there is the preeminent tourism attraction in the Caribbean. Let us not fool ourselves into believing that that is the case, Mr. Speaker, sir. Because that would be an act of sublime folly and political suicide. And so therefore, sir, that is where we failed. And how do we correct this problem of commercial revenue? We correct the problem of commercial revenue, Mr. Speaker, sir, because there has to be, as I said, part that value added must be exercises which bring more money, more revenue. When you go into the Cave, whether you choose to charge up front or whether you choose, Mr. Speaker, sir, to charge per ride or per experience, you are finding a way of having a variety of things that are new, that are going to be able to justify a man putting his hand in his pocket and saying, I can pay for that. Anybody, and I'm speaking out language to this country that they like, because if you use the Caribbean, people just turn the face, the skin up the face and things and so on. That's unfortunate. It's part of our culture. It's one of the things I hope and pray that when I'm done with this or this done with me, that it would have come to an end, but it is a reality now. So let us speak about what Barbadians like. They like to get on an airplane and go to Biden's land, formerly Trump's land, and find themselves lost way in Orlando at Disney World. So they understand that when you get to the gate of Disney World with the little children in tow, the man at the gate dressed up in a hat that looked like Mickey Mouse is going to tell you that to come in, you're paying $100 per person. And that there's a special rate for the little children, and it's $95 or $90 a day. And you don't get vexed. You're going in and you're going to pay. And at every station along the way, there's going to be an opportunity to take some little picture of the experience that you know come off. They come off a roller coaster. The first thing the little children say, Daddy, I want to do that day again. And before you can get out of the exit place where the roller coaster comes to an end, you got to pass through an area that is carefully set up. All of the t-shirts for sale. Show me where in Barbados there's a Barbadian wearing a Harrison's Cave t-shirt today. In whose wardrobe does it exist, Mr. Speaker? It exists in nobody's wardrobe because there was an absence in all of the boards of directors at the cave, an absence of an inclination to go after commercial revenue. Show me, Mr. Speaker, sir, the green monkey teddy bear that somebody went to the cave and put in the little child's hand and carried home as a souvenir. You know what about the green monkey teddy bear, sir? It don't exist. Even though we have in your constituency and in mine and in that of the Honourable Member of St. Thomas, people who could create that. But we didn't see it possible of creating the economic linkages to go to the people who are capable of doing that craft work and saying, stock the shelves here because this can fly off the shelf. And you position it strategically after you come up the cave so that the little children got something that they want to carry along with them. After paying, of course. And Mr. Speaker, sir, show me the pictures. How many times has the Honourable Member for St. Philip, how many times has the Honourable Member for St. Philip South, sir, gone to Harrison's Cave? I don't know. But the Honourable Member might be able to tell us whether she has ever been able to come along with a picture of the experience. How many times has the Honourable Member for St. Andrew gone to Harrison's Cave? Have you ever come home with a picture of that experience? And none of us have, Mr. Speaker, sir. And again, that is part of the commercial revenue, that you want to create opportunities that when the little children come out and they say, that was fantastic, mommy, that was wonderful, daddy, they got a little picture there. And they will compel their parents, because it meant so much to them, to put their hand a little deeper in the pocket and pay that 20 US for that family photo that was taken while you were in the cave. Because it is a real life experience. Nobody didn't pose for that photo as you went through the ballroom. You know the ballroom, Mr. Speaker, sir? You must have remembered the ballroom from the cave. You go through the ballroom, or you go into any other compartment of that cave, sir, and the camera takes that picture while you are not looking. You are focusing on the chandelier. You are focusing on the stalactites, that work of art hanging from the ceiling. The stalagmites that take hundreds of years to reach all the way up the wall. Mr. Speaker, sir, when you are marveling in awe and you least expect it, the camera is recording you and your interaction with your family, and that is what people are being invited to pay money for. It is part of the commercial revenue. But if the truth has to be told, sir, don't let us only blame those people who have run Harrison's Cave. This is part of the cultural failure in this country. And that is why I begin by expressing then, as I have expressed as Minister of Tourism, and I express again that there is a concern that we have to have about how our private sector approaches these matters. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you go in the airport, for example, you will find that the hardest thing to have created in Barbados was a mall feeling in the Grantley Adams International Airport. It is as though it is the most difficult thing for us to use the creativity of our people, for them to be selling those things, sir, that they create, those things, sir, that they make, those things that they bake, those things, Mr. Speaker, sir, those beverages that they have. Whenever we have taken the step of bringing the working class of Barbados to the table and allowing them to unleash their potential in these spaces, you get a transformational change. But the reason why we have remained virtually frozen in time is because we have contented ourselves of getting off of American Airlines or British Airways and walking through a mall experience in somebody else's country and spending money in somebody else's country in that airport mall experience. But it didn't happen in Barbados because we ain't ready for that yet. That is beyond us. And that was the blinkered vision that stymied growth in tourism in this country. It was the blinkered vision that represented what a democratic Labour Party meant for Barbados, sir. And it is part of the emancipation of Barbados from that caused us to move in the direction, not only here at Chukka, but at the airport as well, in the direction of trying now to bring in those people who are skilled in the enhancement of product and the management required for us to make the transition in these kind of installations. It isn't only true at the airport, it isn't only true at the Cape, it is true all around, all around. Think of the experiences in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir. Most of them ain't got nothing to do with the government. But if you think about them, then ask yourself the questions I asked. What is the takeaway when you visit these attractions? To what extent have we made sure that the souvenirs, the t-shirts, the represented not in mass, Barbados, full stop, or flying fish, nothing so unimaginative, but something specific to that experience that you have. And you find, Mr. Speaker, sir, that every time you see the same deficiency. And that is one of the challenges that we have. And that is why I say, sir, it begins, sir, with having a concept of where we want to go with regard to commercial revenue. Now, beyond that, I make the point that the cave would have employed 60-odd people in its original incarnation. And I feel, sir, that it should be self-evident as a proposition that if I now have a green monkey interaction, I need to have some people who are going to manage that interaction. And in as much as before you didn't have the green monkeys, then the management of the interaction requires some human beings who can get a little bit of work there, though. If you're going to have a 200-foot slide, I would imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we're going to have a free-for-all and everybody on the slide at will, there will have to be some structure and flow to the process, and therefore, sir, they're going to have some people to work at that location as well. If we are going to have an experience where tourists learn about the rum of the country, there's got to be somebody to share that experience with them, Mr. Speaker, sir. If you're going to have mixologists who teach people a little bit about that which you can do with the rum, and they can take home from that experience a lesson back to Chicago, and a case of rum too, hopefully, and take back to Boston, that experience, then you're going to have people who are sharing and teaching. And with every new step along the way, therefore, we are creating job opportunities for Barbadian men and women where they did not exist before. I sat in this parliament, Mr. Speaker, sir, when the solution proffered to what you're going to do about employment was who to send home. The honourable member for St. Joseph would have been here at the time, though not the honourable member for Christchurch West. The honourable member for St. Thomas would have been here at the time. When it was said in this place, on this side, the government benches, tell me who to send home if you want to talk about employment. Shall I send them home from the QEH? Shall I send them home from CBC? That was the flagrant, fecal matter that fell from the lips of elected members of the government bench back in 2014, Mr. Speaker, sir, and 2015. And sir, we are at a stage now where we are demonstrating to them and to Barbados how you can use creatively opportunities that will generate. Now, I am no longer the minister, sir, and I cannot stand before this house. I wish I could, but I didn't know about this debate until yesterday, so I do not have the projected level of employment. But I think that one of the fundamental things that the country got to talk about now is how this investment has not only transformed what revenue potential there is, but also how it transformed earning potential, because that is what it must be about in tourism in this country. That this tourism product that we call Barbados' tourism must be something that Barbadians feel there is a takeaway, that it has improved my quality of living, my standard of living, my pocketbook. It hit home at me, and I feel that I can have a stake in it. And perhaps, sir, for too long, we have failed to collide with that reality. I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that one of the values of this exercise, even as I see he who has served extremely well as chairman of the Caves of Barbados. Your honourable member for Christchurch South entered the chamber. And I want to commend him, sir, because from the very first meeting of that board that I had with them, there was an effort to buy in to the vision of how we can enhance commercial revenue at that institution. Now, the reality is, sir, that when you walk into an exercise, when you walk into something and you find that you're virtually hit rock bottom, that's where this government was in 2018. We came and found a cave that was struggling under mountainous debt, millions of dollars in debt. We came and found a cave, sir, that was not reinvesting in itself because it could not reinvest in itself. We came, Mr. Speaker, sir, and found a cave that had to rely on third parties who own tour buses in Barbados to bring people to Harrison Cave because they who mismanaged Barbados for that decade of devastation and economic destruction. They who mismanaged Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir, never found it possible to put the cave in a position where where its management could appear at any of the international cruise conferences standing alone and saying, we represent the premier product in the Caribbean. Come, book directly with us. They had the reins of government, Mr. Speaker. Nobody in that government saw it fit to put the caves in a position where they could have their own buses picking up people off of the cruise pier and carrying it straight to the cave. Far from reinvesting in it in the way I've just described to this house, sir, they didn't even think about the transportation to the cave. In fact, if the honourable member for St. Thomas has a chance to speak in this house, she would tell you that they didn't even repair the roads to get to the cave or the signage to get to the cave. So that we come in and they expect now as though it is abracadabra. You wave a magic wand because the Prime Minister is Merlin the magician. That you can just transform all of the neglect. And anybody who is faithful to themselves, I ain't gonna tell you, sir, because we're all Barbadians, we live here. Anybody who's faithful to themselves knows that even the same tour bus operators complain that they can't get their tour buses through St. Thomas to get to Harrison Cave comfortably. Even the same tour bus operators. And they had the monopoly on getting the people to the cave. So it was an exercise, sir, in folly. And it was virtually a suicide pact that bunch of ignoramai had. One person is ignorant. Plurality is ignoramai. And Mr. Speaker, sir, the rectification process is ongoing and it is underway. And I marvel at what I hear coming out of George Street now. Because it is as though people are washed in the blood of the Lamb. And because you put up your hand and say, look at me here, and 200 odd people say, I can support you, or a little under 200 say, I can support the other body, that all is well. Because for them, that is all it is. There's no developmental plan in there, and there's nothing felt out here by way of a developmental impulse that comes from in that quarter, Mr. Speaker. But they're the first to find fault and to criticize, even though there's a deficit on their part in terms of constructive argument and engagement. And you will hear, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it takes too long. But, you know, we are at that point, sir, where, as I said, you can now see the transformations taking place. The work that has to be done on even the most mundane things, including the road rehabilitation, cost this government millions of dollars. Had there been a maintenance program that was effective, we won't go out to spend our money now, sir. But there was none. The politics of spite dominated this country back then. And they told us to our faces while we sat in the opposition benches that nothing will be done in the constituencies which were held by honourable members for the Barbados Labour Party. But that is a fact. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is felt in all of rural Barbados. So that don't marvel now that we have to spend so much money on rectifying water. Because we all know what happened. That there was a deliberate policy of neglect imposed on the part of the Democratic Labour Party on parts of Barbados. And sir, it goes on and on. Now, the important point in all of this is what the consequences are. Because I say these things, sir, not because I want to live in the past in any way. I really yearn for one of them to come in here so they could be engaged. The problem is, I don't know how they can get here. That's the problem. I don't know.
In the gallery.
But they don't even come in the gallery. They're not even sufficiently curious, sir, to show face in the gallery.
Gallery.
But the point is this, Mr. Speaker, sir. And this is the lesson that has to be learned, and I want it to be carefully thought through. Because this must be the last time that Barbados goes through this kind of reconstruction exercise. When they were being abjectly reckless and the politics of disregard pervaded the land, Mr. Speaker, sir, they did not know that what was coming down the pipe was a thing called COVID. They did not know that there would be an eruption of La Soufrière. They did not know that Vladimir Putin would cross the border in Ukraine and start a war to confuse the whole of the world, Mr. Speaker. They were just concerned with fattening their personal pockets, looking after themselves, and be damned to everybody else. Now, there's obviously a penalty that they are paying because the public understands this. This is not an accident that in 3 consecutive electoral exercises, because the honourable member for St. George North was one of those exercises, they were completely annihilated. That is not an accident. That is evidence that the public understands it. But the lesson must be that we never again come to this sorry point. Because, sir, what we did was to start to lose the competitive advantages that we had as a country. And it's all well and good to say you're going to come and build back. But while you are building back, you remember at all times that you are in a globally competitive, a regionally competitive environment. As I said earlier, everybody wants to eat a little piece of your lunch. You're not the only place, we are not the only place that tourists have a choice of going. So as hard as the honourable member from Christchurch South would have tried as chairman, he came in and found a Caves of Barbados, a Harrison's Cave that had hit rock bottom. Could not invest anything in its own future, Mr. Speaker, sir, buried in debt. Millions of dollars.
It was a dark hole.
A dark hole and getting darker. And you had to fight to bring a little bit of light. And so therefore, when the Ministry of Finance decides that, this now is a do-or-die situation and we can't afford to die, the time to recover on our own and of our own volition is going to be too long. We got to take more drastic measures. Go out to tender. Let us find the right parties that can bring the level of capital required. Put an arrangement in place under a lease program. Is a lease? Contractual arrangement to manage the cave. A management contract. And let us move forward. And that is what this is. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, the competitive advantage, because I want to spend some time on that. In every country of the Caribbean, while we were busily playing twiddly-dee and twiddly-dum and wasting time, the countries of the Caribbean have been advancing their tourism product, the well-being of their tourism product. You don't have to drill down too deep to see it, Mr. Speaker, sir. All of them, bar none, have been trying to get their hand on an international airport. All of them, bar none. There was a period of time when this Parliament's leadership enjoyed the knowledge of the fact that there was no way that a tourist was going to get to Dominica unless they passed through Barbados. And so therefore, they're bound to spend a night or two either on the way in or on the way back out. So we could count their arrival as part of ours. And that was true, sir, of St. Vincent as well. As a little boy growing up, that was the reality at this country. No longer the reality, because they are trying to get their way forward, working hard. And Mr. Speaker, sir, in consequence, taking away a little piece of our lunch. Every one of them, Mr. Speaker, sir, bar none, has developed product authorities where they are trying to enhance their tourism product. Modeled on what we did with the Barbados Tourism Product Authority. Every one of them, bar none, is trying to become more competitive. They've even managed, Mr. Speaker, sir, to get some of the best brains that Barbados had to offer to go over and work with them, Mr. Speaker, to guide that which they do and help them build out their capacity. Meanwhile, we chose under the last administration to rest on our laurels. And the premier tourism product in the country and in the Caribbean suffered immensely as a result of it. Now, sir, part of the journey forward has to be about using this cave in a way that allows us to economically build linkages across the society. And I am pleased that under the management contract, Chukka has bought into this. Clearly, if you have a product like Mount Gay that is sought after on the eastern seaboard of the United States in virtually every state, that is sought after on the western seaboard of the United States now, that is known in the United Kingdom, Mr. Speaker, sir, and you have them as part of an experience which is complementary to the cave experience, sir, you are building the linkages with the economy so that those people are not just in the business now of selling domestically, but as I said, you are educating your tourists about the rum culture, about the rum history, about the rum trail and the development of that aspect of this country's experience. That journey, Mr. Speaker, sir, every tourist who sits down and learns about rum comes away with a better understanding, not only of the product, but a better understanding of the country and what the country represents. And in similar vein, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you're going to have the mixologists working, then it means, sir, that again, we are having the consumption of the alcohol, the linkages are self-evident, and you are taking it one step further beyond where it was before when none of these things was on the table. I have said already, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the sales facilities are understood to be sales facilities on the site which will incorporate Barbadians and that which Barbadians are able to offer and Barbadian product. And Mr. Speaker, sir, again, that takes us well beyond where we were. I want to say, sir, that one of the things that attracts me most about this all is the willingness of the investor not just to come and make money, but to enter into partnership that is developmental. And in all that I do as minister, I find it necessary to say to these people who come, I want you to now have a conversation with me about what you can do for Barbados educationally. I want to talk about what you could do for Barbados developmentally. I want to talk about what you could do for Barbados in terms of our broadening our people's understanding of how the whatever it is that you are bringing to the country can enhance the well-being of our society. And you know, Mr. Speaker, sir, they get it. In fact, they get it so well that one in particular, and I will have to say I cannot call his name, but one particular investor told me that it is a marked difference from that which he previously would have experienced when at the tail end of the conversation, he was asked what you could do for me. Now, that is not the politics that we play. But I want to say, sir, that with Chukka, it is now part of the understanding, and I'm sure the Honourable Member for St. Thomas will bear it out when she speaks, that these people have accepted that Allen View needs some development. And they're prepared to work with the Honourable Member for St. Thomas on the development of Allen View. Oh, Mr. Speaker, I don't have to tell you about the politics. It has never been an election in St. Thomas where the well-being of the folks in Allen View has not been an issue. And the relationship between the cave and the people in Allen View and what can be done to advance their well-being has not been an issue. But we now, sir, by way of partnership, have found some people. And you know, interestingly enough, I started by saying to you that when the tenders opened, you saw what Barbadians were prepared to offer to Barbados. And the reason why I become a little bit inflamed on this matter, sir, is that people who grew up here, who understand the challenge of here, who employ people from about here, remain silent in their proposals about something as fundamental to here as the area where people live in Allenview. So they're prepared to spend their money in the cave to get a return from off the cave. I can move more people through the cave and carry them to my next attraction somewhere else in Barbados. I can now put, my proposal is I could put where if you had 400 coming through in a day, I would get 500 to come through in a day and move on to my next attraction. That's what it was about. Not a word built in to the need for a partnership between private capital in this country, where they are born, and the well-being of people living right around that cave in a square, in a radius of 2 or so miles or 3 miles, who born here too, who got to live about here too, who are suffering. Not a word. And there comes a time, as I said, when you got to hold the mirror up in this country to the folks in this country and talk to them candidly and ask the question, is this what we want for ourselves? And I remind the private sector in Barbados, sir, that, you know, it is all well and good to be cavalier. This government will do its best to facilitate private enterprise. Make no mistake about that. This government will do its best to go further and faster in terms of being able to accommodate the interests of the private sector. Further and faster than ever before. But equally, Mr. Speaker, make no mistake about it, that this government is forever wedded to the view that when we go forward, we're going forward as one people, and we are not leaving the working class and the dispossessed behind. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that has to be said. So whether it be the project at Sturgis, whether it be assisting the well-being of people in Allenview, or even, Mr. Speaker, sir, embracing Holy Innocent School, a primary school in Barbados, sir, that needs assistance. And if the truth is to be told again about them 10 painful years, I do not think I would be misleading this House if I said that nothing was done at Holy Innocent School during the entire period of time the Democratic Labour Party was running this country. And these are the things that Barbadians have to understand. That when the neglect is systematic and it sets in and a new administration comes, that administration is now called upon to correct every single problem virtually at once, but in circumstances where you had no money to do it. And you got to struggle in the best of times. And then on top of that comes the pandemic. And on top of that comes all the other things that we've had to confront, Mr. Speaker, sir. So then you have to find creative ways of building partnership with private enterprise so that the things that need to be done in order to carry along the people, in this case, the little children, can be done, sir. And I believe candidly, that this approach, which has been taken by Chukka Barbados, is reflective of a desire on their part to have not only partnership, but to have this country see the best in class in terms of what tourism attractions can have to offer. Indisputably, it will be an attraction unlike that which we have ever seen before in terms of its scope and its scale. As I said, this is no longer about passing through the cave on the way to the next 2 or 3 stops along the tour. And that worked for some people, sir. It is a business model. And I want to be very candid with you because perhaps I need to spell it out because everybody didn't serve in the tourism industry. So you need to understand the business model. It is a very interesting business model. Because if I own 90% of the tour buses in Barbados, I'm moving 90% or thereabouts of the people who getting off the cruise ship. And if I carrying them to the cave, but I hustling them through the cave to get on to the next attraction, and the next attraction is also owned by me, then, Mr. Speaker, sir, get them in and out the cave as quickly as possible because I want to get them delivered to me. And then I'm moving them from that attraction that I own to another attraction that I also own and get there around lunchtime because they're going to pay to go in and see the attraction and they're going to eat at me. That's the business model. But that business model works if you are living in an economy where there is a minority, almost like an oligarchy, that will control everything, and that the rest are quite content to have a few crumbs drop off the side of the table. And thank you for that. No, I have, Mr. Speaker, no intention today on reflecting any further on that business model. I came to this Parliament when I was tourism minister and pointed out to this country that there were 300 or more taxi drivers in Bridgetown who controlled less than 5% of the business coming off of cruise ships. And as far as I am concerned, that is a fundamental flaw that got to fix. It might not fix today, but it got to be fixed. Because I understand, sir, that poverty anywhere one day becomes a threat to prosperity everywhere. And you can't continue to take the people for granted in these matters. Because increasingly they open their eyes and they see what is happening and they ask, why can I not go there too? So it is a credit to this government, though those who sit in George Street will never part lips to say this, but it must be said. It is a credit to this government that today, if you have an international cruise conference, there are Barbadian taxi drivers who are going to that conference to participate and to sell their services directly to the cruise ship. So that they, like the people who own the tour buses, can be the first call when a tour is being sold on board somebody's cruise ship. It never happened before this Barbados Labour Party administration was elected in 2018. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I am saying to you that in the same way we're changing that business model, we got to look at the business model that we are talking about here that had fed Harrison's Cave, because Harrison's Cave was put in a position willing compliance by the last tourism minister, aided and abetted by the finance minister, as he then was, and the prime minister. Willing compliance, aiding and abetting it, where they did not put the cave in a position where they could independently appear in their own right at any cruise conference and say, but we want to sell direct to the cave. When you are on board the ship, just purchase your tickets or whatever, and Harrison's Cave will be there at the side of the pier to pick you up and carry you. We were always dependent on somebody to carry people to the cave. Not true. That is a fact. That is a fact. So that the national treasure was locked into a construct that worked first and foremost for the interests of certain elements of private enterprise. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you ask me, I got a problem with that construct. And I believe that we have to unlock these constructs and rethink them and create a playing field where all who can compete are given an opportunity to compete. I do not know the clause in Adam's will which says that there are some few people in Barbados who should be able to move tour buses and tourists, and then there are others who got to watch it pass by them. I did not see that clause in Adam's will, Mr. Speaker, sir. And part of what we are talking about here today is the management structures now that had to be put in place, because Barbados, and I say hold the mirror up for our people to look at ourselves and to ask ourselves whether we have done well enough. Not we, the government, we, the people who sat down and watched this unfold. And I know very often people will ask themselves, but how this could happen and why it happened. But we now live in a society, sir, where I urge that we raise our voice against things that are flagrantly wrong. And that we do all that we can in order to make sure that the playing field and opportunities of access, economic access, are leveled. and made available to those who are the constituents of every member of this House. Because all of us know that at the end of the period of time, we go back to those same people who were bypassed and ask for them to lend forgiveness and to give us a chance to do better. The time got to come, sir, when they see better being done. And that is why this business construct that I speak to has been such a problem for me. I ain't speaking about nobody else. I'm speaking of the problem for me. And I feel, Mr. Speaker, sir, that where we are today with this Chukka program and the management structure and the opportunities created, it is a developmental trajectory whose time has come. It is an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir, to broaden the economic participation in the cave. It is an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir, to modernize the cave. It is an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir, for us to spend money there in terms of new investment that the government left to its own could not spend because the government had been beaten into virtual nothingness by the time we took it over. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a necessity for us to take this step as a way of ensuring the future well-being of that which is the preeminent tourism product, not only in Barbados, as I have said, but across the Caribbean. And so, sir, I therefore want to invite this House to lend this bill its support. As I said, on its face, it is deceptively simple. And for those who have not been around as long, they may be forgiven for feeling that this is just what it appears to be on its face. You delete the word minister, and you have a different interpretation to the question of control and management of caves in Barbados and related matters, and the story ends there. However, sir, there is an undercurrent, and there are underlying issues of economic development, issues of economic enfranchisement, issues of empowerment of our people, and I would not know how. Frankly, sir, I would not know how to treat to this matter without also addressing those issues as I have done. I am obliged to you, Mr. Speaker. Beg to move, sir, that this resolution be read, this bill be read a second time.
Honourable St. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wish to thank the honourable member and indeed the Minister of Tourism for the efforts that are being put into making this particular entity and the activities at the Harrison's Cave, now managed by Chukka Caribbean, as an entity that will carry Barbados forward as it helps us to look after our natural heritage, as well as create employment and help us to build this economy that has had such a terrible negative experience during COVID, and again as well as a result of Tropical Storm Tropical Storm Elsa, as well as the freak storm that we had, the ash, all of that. I want, sir, to lend my support to the amendment to the Caves Act and to indicate that I am now feeling so much better about what has taken place with the cave and how the residents of Allen View and Wetchpur Hall, as well as the surrounding communities by extension, are feeling about the engagement that never happened before in the way that we should have wanted it to take place. And therefore, it is a plus for us because when we are looking at infrastructural development, we also must look at the human component and how locals and others are engaged in activities of that nature that will help to empower them and their families. And so today, I take my hat off to what this government is doing in respect of the cave and the Chukka Caribbean project that has really rekindled the spirit of the residents, in particular of Allen View, who always felt dejected, whether it would have been in the Barbados Labour Party's government as well as in the administration that was there before us. And so today, I want to really indicate to the people of Barbados the joy and happiness that I feel in having engagements with the residents and also with the Chukka team that is in the island as of this week again, to be able to go forward with the foundation and the engagement of the residents so that they too can feel that they own a part of that state in Harrison's Cave and that particular project. And I want to thank all engaged for the role that they have been playing. As all of us are aware, Mr. Speaker, Allen View was declared an environmental protection zone sometime in the early 2000s, early in this millennium. And the residents were made aware of some of the challenges, but sad to say, many of them do not quite feel that they were a part of any engagement in the way that they should have been because of knowledge of what was taking place in the cave and their detachment from it, since there are knowledgeable people in there who were overlooked for employment at the point in time when the cave was really flourishing. Today, sir, I am proud to say the residents of Allen View are feeling recognized and are being engaged in a meaningful way. And you know me very well, Mr. Speaker, that were it not what I expected or what I recommended and worked with them on, that I will be the first one to criticize them privately as well as publicly. And I take my hat off to Chukka and the team because of the human resource component that they bring to the engagement of that project as well as the residents surrounding those environs. I say hats off to them. The environmental protection zone has limited or inhibited scores of the residents there from expanding their projects, from building new homes, from expanding the homes, from rearing certain types of animals, and this was recognized by a then Barbados Labour Party government. And even the lady who was rearing her pigs and all that, she was relocated to St. Lucie because that cave is, for us, the 8th wonder of the world. And we must put every measure in place, environmentally and otherwise, to protect what we have been given in this God-given aspect of things. And so the stalagmites and the stalactites were beginning to become discolored because of the agricultural projects that were always a part of the life of the village for generations, for centuries. And so it has created some fallout because of lack of further explanations to them, even before my time, as well as what has been happening with them over the past perhaps 15 to 20 years that they were extremely concerned about, and they still have some concerns. And so today, Mr. Speaker, they were also not able to do the agricultural lots, as I said, using certain manures, rearing certain kinds of animals, and so on, and that would have impacted on their livelihoods because St. Thomas generally is an agricultural environment where people have to raise their chickens, their pigs, and sheep, and so to be able to feed their families and to expand and improve their quality of life. And so that has been a very slow point. But I am proud today because they would have sacrificed so many years, probably 40 years of challenges, that I am proud to say today, Mr. Speaker, having done all of that, this government has determined that those who have land that is lying fallow because they cannot build the houses, it is their land, they have been paying land tax, but they cannot build or expand. Those persons who cannot build on those spots have been given some assurance that the spots at 40 acre will be made available for them. I think there are just over 40 spots at 40 acre that I have been assured the residents of Allen View will be able to relocate in order for those who would be on the dome of the cave as well as those who cannot build at all. And for me, that is one of the most fundamental things that can happen to those residents, because you're talking just about 4 or 5 miles away from Allen View, where they will still be close. And I must tell you, Mr. Speaker, Allen View is one of those traditional villages in Barbados where the family linkages reach for many generations. Nearly every family in Allen View, every individual in Allen View is related to the other. So the Blackmans and the Johnsons and the Stewarts and the Connells and the Archers. One is the, as a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, I attended Holy Innocent School with many of them. And when you touch one fella in Allen View, you touch all. And therefore, I know of the cohesiveness of the families in Allen View and how they suffered, and indeed one or two of them would have benefited because of the employment that they would have received at the cave. But they made the sacrifice, and today I am glad that efforts are being made for them not to have to pay land tax anymore, because they can't occupy the land in any way, as well as the 40 or so house spots that have been offered to them. Now, their situation became worse at the change of government in 2008, where this Barbados Labour Party had designed a package to refurbish Harrison's Cave. And Harrison's Cave was at the point of conclusion with the upgrades when the government changed. And for years, absolutely nothing happened at the cave. And when something did happen, Mr. Speaker, all kinds of families and friends from all over Barbados were invited, and not a single person for Allen View. I was invited, and I felt as though I would cry, and I did express my dismay and my anger at residents of Allen View who sacrificed, changing their whole lifestyles and everything after so many generations. None was invited when the Honourable Minister at that time from Christchurch East would have been the Minister of Environment. And it has pained them even more than ever at the way that they were treated, having been in there trying to help to promote and to share whatever they could in helping Barbados with this 8th wonder of the world, as we term it. Indeed, the pedestrianization of the road is what added to the cave, but with numbers that were lessening, it did not really impact on anyone. And the pedestrianization project, sir, started by Holy Innocent School, our village school, where I was raised under the tutelage of none other, and I didn't ask your permission, sir, but please allow me, of none other than the great late Lester Sinclair Vaughan, SCM, one of the most profound headmasters, and we call them principals now, ever to be on this earth. And so it started from Holy Innocent School and wove its way all through to Allen View, with the adjustments of the roads and the handrails and whatever being placed, as well as the sidewalks, so that visitors to the island come into the cave and those environs of Wetchmahal Gully and so on, that they could exit the vehicles, whether it be a bus, a taxi, or whatever, and walk through the village to engage the residents and those shopkeepers and others who worked or served or lived in that environment. And it never, ever, Mr. Speaker, developed any interest at all. Because there was a plan from the past that land would have been acquired, and from the time you get to the entrance of Allen View to take you to Harrison's Cave, kiosks would have been placed there so that the visitors and others could purchase items that would have been made or designed or prepared by the residents of Allen View, so that they will be able to become an integral part of the economy for their vending and whatever else roles that they will play. It never materialized. But there are plans, Mr. Speaker, as a result of meeting with the Chaka Caribbean team, and they are looking in a very serious way at how that project can happen now that the changes and the plans have been made. So the pedestrianization was a great idea. It improved the quality of the road and all that in Wetchmahal, but unfortunately, it did not have the impact where the economy and where the locals would have been able to raise any funds to help themselves. I also know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that geotechnical survey would have been done, because we want to make sure that Harrison's Cave and that dome where people will celebrate and they will meet and take their photographs and have their meals and all that, that we wanted to make sure that that geotechnical survey has been completed, it has started. I understand from the Honourable Minister in the other place that the plans are coming shortly. As a matter of fact, we meet in a few days. I think it's on Friday, Thursday or Friday, to be able to discuss where we are at and what are the findings, because we believe in that hallmark of safety for everyone, whether in the cave or on top of the cave or wherever we are in Barbados. Safety is a priority. And so we will be able to soon have the revelation of the outcome of that, that particular project. Mr. Speaker, sir, that Echo Adventure Park concept is fantastic. But I want to indicate that this, I met on the 13th, which is Friday gone, with the team from Chukka, and I am feeling extremely elated to see that the engagement of the residents now will actually take place. It is the 4th session we have had with the team, and the locals have formed a community of persons who will meet and discuss and help to plan and then share the information with the residents who are very much on board, Mr. Speaker, having gone through and worked with them and canvassed with them in teams. We are now satisfied that representatives from the village sit on that special committee that meet with Chukka. It has never happened before, as far as I am aware, with what would have been the Harrison's Cave under under our government. And so the plans are there to be able to make a difference. The only one concern I have today in relation to Harrison's Cave and what had transpired in the past is that there are about 7 persons, I understand, from one of the persons who is now a pensioner, awaiting their funds from Sagicor, and this is over 2 years they've been waiting. It is to wait too long. And therefore, I would wish when the Honourable Minister shares that further information with us, that sooner rather than later, those pensioners receive their benefits, because many of them have worked 25 and 30 and 40 years in the cave, whether they were operating the trams or they were general workers or at whatever level. And I'm sure that this government that is caring will rely on the board and the members the board members to be able to bring this matter to conclusion, to help those pensioners to be able to get the benefits that they deserve. I was invited, Mr. Speaker, sir, to that virtual meeting early in the week with the team of persons from the community, and there are some excellent ideas they have come up with. They have never, the folks at Allen View have never, according to my recollection, been invited by the past management of the cave to be a part of whatever discussions, whatever plans there were as stakeholders. And for me, this is a phenomenal step, and this is what I feel should happen in every community where any project, whether local or international or regional for that matter, comes in to be a part of the development of any society. The locals must have a stake in this changing environment that we are in. Some of them bring knowledge, Mr. Speaker, that is superior to anybody who would have sat on the board or anything, because they have lived there and they know the circumstances under which they have survived and perhaps how they have suffered. And so, having met with them, with the team on Thursday, on the 13th, the residents have indicated some of what they would like to see further developed. And so that was Friday, Mr. Speaker, I must tell you. And so the local members of the community have determined, with the support of Chukka Caribbean, to form a foundation where funds will be raised to help with projects in that community, and by extension, the Welsh Mahal, Sturgis, and other communities that will are joining the cave for all these centuries, who too have been deprived of extending their houses and doing certain aspects of upgrades because of the extension of that environmental protection zone that had been developed. And I agree, because if we are to save the cave, then we cannot have all kinds of challenges with water and the contaminants and everything else going on in the environment. And so, Mr. Speaker, having met with the management and having looked at the foundation, we want to work with Holy Innocents School in a more cohesive way. I call it the University of St. Thomas. And plans have already started, and the plan is to provide scholarships for the children. And I'm not talking scholarships now as though it's a high school and you have to pay school fees, but scholarships through engaging the family, providing funding, providing hampers, providing tablets, helping them with their school uniforms, with their school books, because we in St. Thomas need employment too. We are suffering. And as a result of that, we would wish for families to be able to be further engaged and empowered. They want to look at sports. There are a lot of sporting groups in the parish. We are getting our lights at the Holy Innocents Pavilion. We're looking for repairs there because that is close to Allen View as well, and close to my heart, because it's called Holy Innocents Pavilion. And therefore, the team wants to work with the sporting groups as well. We're very strong, Mr. Speaker, on netball and cricket. There's a lot of football and basketball too, but Chukka Caribbean has agreed that they want to engage and do some form of sponsorship to be able to help those in the sporting arena. And we know that many young people are the ones, Mr. Speaker, not your Acer or mine, who will be out there playing netball or basketball or football, but they are the ones with the energies, and once they are meaningfully engaged and they're exercising, it means that they will be less attracted to negative behavior, crime, and whatever else might engage their minds. So I'm really very happy to learn of that. We also want, in our plans going forward for the next couple of weeks, to be able to honor our senior citizens from the village. And I am so proud, Mr. Speaker, having been raised in the communities, to know that Allen View might have had about 6 centenarians living there, and quite a few people who live on to the 90s. And therefore, when we go down memory lane with them, the plan is, let us look to see how they can be engaged in the cave itself on some special evening, and go down memory lane, talk about what it was like in childhood, talk about what happened in 40 Acre and adjoining community, even talk about a young child who had been murdered by the plantation owner way back, I believe in the 40s or the 30s or 40s, and how Allen View even became more cohesive because of the challenges that emerged as a result of that experience. So the seniors are going to have their say to be honored down memory lane. Also, Mr. Speaker, the locals are going to be given an opportunity through the verbal and other forms of engagement for them to make their craft. So the Honourable Minister would have spoken about the Green Monkey. But there are people in Allen View who are excellent, skilled people who can weave using what I call the raffia, people call it the cane lily. That is still a very popular product. There are others who create lovely meals. I can talk without having your permission, sir, but I can mention Celestine Giles, who has been born and living in that village her whole lifetime. She has one of the best restaurants on the road to Allen View, and things fell apart for her, but I'm sure that now that the cave is getting ready to open up, that her business will rekindle and the visitors will come. And she's so lucky, Mr. Speaker, having been able to interact with so many thousands of visitors who take their meals or took their meals from her little restaurant. Some of them even sent tickets for her to travel to their countries to be able to get a feeling of the difference and to show how they appreciated the hospitality. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Speaker, you know better than I, because I'm not an eat-out person, but there are so many thousands of Barbadians who make you feel happy in the environs where you eat and where you socialize, having a drink, beverage, whatever. Those visitors love Celestine to the bone. And I'm saying she is one who has determined, I am going to work hard day and night to improve my quality of life, and the visitors love her much the same. And I think it is important that by the time the kiosks go up, that more residents will get a more intimate engagement so that we can continue to sell Barbados as only a smile away. And therefore, I am happy to hear about that engagement with the locals, making the craft and not bringing things from any other country that is being sold here for next skin to nothing, and our residents are there in a corner with a little stall or whatever, a kiosk, and everybody bypassing them. It's too expensive. Whenever we go all over the world, I went to Canada, and I can't even remember the name of the Coney Island I went to, Mr. Speaker. All kinds of items were there, they're being put on sale, and I'm sure that those items were probably made in Canada, but we want the Barbadiana to continue to reflect, and we want a Shirley Stewart and other people to be there with the background playing some music and making life happy, and some of the members of the escorts and so on. That will make a difference in what's happening in the cave. Mr. Speaker, sir, they also have indicated that they are willing to work closer with honoring the youth in Allen View. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, I am extremely proud. They want to honor them for their stewardship, because there's little violence ever in Allen View. Then generally in St. Thomas, I must tell you, whether it be St. Thomas proper or St. Thomas, St. James Central, which has a very large part of St. Thomas as well, there's little violence, and we want it to continue that way. But the guys in Allen View, and I take this opportunity and take my hat off to them. Some of them are working in the NCC project for the ASH program. Some of them are working in MTW. And the guys at Allen View, Mr. Speaker, have cleared a whole spot because nothing was on it but a few old cars and trees and debris. And Sammy Screws and his team in Allen View have cleaned it off and are ready to move forward with making it into a play park for the residents of Allen View, whose children have to play on the road every day. And I thought that that was profound. And so Chaka team have determined we want to be a part of it. We're going to join with NCC. And we want to be able to do some sponsorship. We even want to plant a tree or two on Arbor Day in the same location. That is as positive as we could have gotten in our discussions, Mr. Speaker. I want to highly commend those young men and women who have gone into Allen View and said, I'm not waiting on government alone. I am going to work together to change the whole culture of our village that has been so profound and so cohesive for so many, many generations. And Chuckle team have indicated we are willing to help to put on some bench tables, and so we will work hand in hand. So they're going to have some kind of dialogue through me or directly with the Honourable Minister or his team of technocrats to be able to see how the partnership for that play park can work out to make a difference in the lives of people who for many years lived in the village but were always shut off from the cave. And they always say as them and us. Now the people out there in the cave, they don't look on us, they don't give us this, they don't help with that. You can ask from now till the cows come home. Now this private entity is going to be an integral part of what is going to happen in Allen View. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that I am extremely proud to be a part of this transition. I want to say that the residents have put confidence in this Barbados Labour Party for having the vision to be able to work closer with the Chukar Caribbean organization and to transform what we are offering. I am sure that they have already agreed that they will want to offer free passages for persons who will come, probably to give vouchers, whatever it is that you give, to be able to let the residents come in and have a look. Because there's no point in me on the outside, having sacrificed my entire life for so many years, and then you come and open a new entity, you don't even give me an invitation to say, come and look, even if you can't buy. The entertainment, the engagement, the exposure is extremely necessary if the people of Allen View and St. Thomas in particular are so intimately engaged. I must tell you, Mr. Speaker, before I close, that the heritage location at Sturgis number 1 did involve the people of Allen View when we had the Heart of Barbados. And I proudly want to say today, Mr. Speaker, sir, that I am looking forward after we have relaxed some of the protocols, once COVID goes wherever it came from, that the management at that location, at the heritage location at Sturgis number 1, is ready and willing to be able to engage the people of Allen View again. They had been well coordinated. Whenever the Heart of Barbados came about every year, the teams from Allen View were the ones that took center stage in the tour guides, as the persons who will have the stalls, as those who will be engaged in whatever summer camps or whatever the sponsorship was for Holy Innocent School, the residents of Allen View were, and they feel very dejected now, not only because of COVID, but over time, the last Democratic Labour Party government did not engage them and shut down a lot of the projects they were doing. Thankfully, it is still there, and the staff is looking more forward in a more positive way to be able to rekindle those spirits and to be able to deliver and achieve some of those objectives in embracing and engaging the residents of the parish. I close, Mr. Speaker, but I cannot close unless I say Harrison's Cave is located in an area where, if that major entrance to Allen View becomes blocked, the residents and the visitors will become marooned. There is a special road called the Sturgis Agricultural Access Road, where the then Honourable Member from St. Joseph at that time, who is now Sir, he had, because of the interest he had in agriculture, that entire area that will exit, come through to Allen View and exit through the Sturgis location where the plantation house was, and then go on to Bloomsbury and so, that road served well so that persons can get in and out to upgrade the agriculture, to develop whatever, to purchase, but that road has now fallen into the state of a cart road. The Democratic Labour Party in the 10 years will not touch a road in St. Thomas, Mr. Speaker. And I am hurting, but I understand what has happened because the government of the Barbados Labour Party over a 3-year period has not been able to treat the decay across the length and breadth of Barbados. I am asking my government to treat to that agricultural access road, because when we went in there through Tropical Storm Elsa, one massive breadfruit tree fell just before we got into the direct entrance of the cave. You should see us, Mr. Speaker, sir, from the disaster management team. I thank them. God bless all of those across Barbados. But those, the disaster organization, the local organizations, and a builder contractor from Christie's Village, he sent us his chainsaw or whatever, because nobody could get out of Allen View, leading on to where the cave is. So the plan is for that agricultural access road to be properly upgraded to exit just in case anything happens. But there are residents there who are waiting for that to happen. I know that Rome was not built in a day. I know that the government cannot do all of the roads, but if we want Chukka, with the generation of these millions of dollars in our economy to make the difference, to raise employment, to make people feel comfortable, to look after their families and so, I believe that this one will help to make a tremendous difference and not to have anybody marooned in the village, whether they are locals or they are visitors. And so we, the people of St. Thomas, are happy. Chukka has finally, as well, this is my final comment, arranged that group of young men at Sturgis who have started the development of a project, an environmental project. And I want to thank the Honourable Minister of Youth Affairs and Community Empowerment for his visit 2 weeks ago to those young men, Jabari Road and the crowd, for the vision of ensuring that they do that eco-tourism project at the corner of Sturgis so that they can go forward. Again, that was raised with Chukka and the team. They too want to embrace those young people, because many of us feel that you have to have a degree at some university to be able to function at any level. I can speak better, Mr. Speaker, sir, in here than anybody else when it comes to people ostracizing you because they feel you come from nowhere. Oh, he's a wild boy. Oh, she didn't go too far in school. And that mentality that is killing Barbados. We have excellent people who were all for parents that hardly went to school, but they were steeped in faith, some form of religion. They were taught how to cut and contrive. They were taught thrift. They were taught how to have community life and embrace everybody despite what level of development they were at. All of a sudden, we have cleaned out our communities and gone to live in other places and have forgotten from whence we have come. These young men at Sturgis, I highly commend them. I thank this government for the attention that's being paid to them, and NCC has been on board with them as well. And I'm sure that once we keep on this trajectory, Mr. Speaker, St. Thomas will again be the gem and the heart of Barbados. And when your heart is dead, Mr. Speaker, you're nobody. Our heart is beginning to kick in again after the devastation by a Democratic Labour Party, that did not give us a single road. When a minister came, when the Edge Hill Road was to be done to Shop Hill, and told the staff from the depot at Bagatelle, man, don't touch that door. She had 40 years to build the road. And that road is one of the worst.
I remember you have 2 more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really don't need the extra minute, except to say that I am really very proud to see what has happened in Allenview and the lease of the Harrison's Cave to Chukka, Caribbean, and how the people of the parish of St. Thomas will benefit in forms of employment, in forms of performance, in forms that are beyond what I can envision. And therefore, I want to thank you and to thank the Honourable Minister who's in the other place, as well as the other member for St. James Central, for the efforts that would have been put in place for us to be able to come thus far in this short space of time. And I give my blessings to this government and to Chukka and the residents of Allenview and the environs of St. Thomas, whom I believe will benefit for whatever engagement we have had with the persons who are managing that particular project. I wish to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the moment, and I trust that God will continue to help us to live to see the unfolding of a novel project in this part of the hemisphere that will not only generate employment, but will give us aspects of entertainment and contentment, seeing that we are going through this bad experience with COVID and the other aspects of natural disasters that would have impacted on us. We are going to survive with God's help. I wish to thank you, sir.
Honourable Member for City of Bridgetown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to enter the debate at this point in time to support this bill, the Caves Amendment Bill 2022. And before I go on to why I support this and to expand on my thoughts, I plan to give a very brief interjection and really to break it down for those listening. So what is the bill about? You hear the debate, you hear members stand and we talk. But what is it about? In closing, the Honourable Member for St. James South Central put it good. He said it is about making an amendment. And basically what we are trying to do, sir, is to ensure that as the cave move from ministry to ministry, as it may from time to time, that we don't have to come back here and make amendments and adjust the interpretation and do these things. So this bill is about efficiency. So off the bat, I want to support it. Now, it was very enlightening to hear the member for St. Thomas, because I have gained a lot of information and knowledge. It was a very educational presentation from the member. And that is why I encourage people to follow and listen to Parliament. A lot of people don't seem to listen. And then they go around glibly without the information speaking. I would know, Mr. Speaker, I was one. But I encourage people now and going forward to follow what is going on in this House as we debate on the people's business. Mr. Speaker, it is, I don't know, ironic or fortuitous that the member for St. Thomas, which is known as the heart of Barbados, because she speaks from the heart, and she puts her heart into whatever it is she is speaking about. So I commend the member who looked and seek to make the connection between the investment and the people. The people and the investment. And she reminds us each and every time why we are here. It is about people, people, people. Like the member for St. Michael's South slogan, people over politics. And the member for St. Thomas reminds us of that in her contribution all the time. Now, Mr. Speaker, to get down to matters, this resolution, this bill caused me to get on my feet today simply because when I think of recovering, when I think of rebuilding, when I think of rebounding from the economic devastation of COVID and all the other things this government and this administration had to wrestle with over the past better part of 2 years, 3.5 years if you want to call it that, Mr. Speaker. I understand the importance of tourism. As a representative on the ground, many times, I hear a lot of my people, again through ignorance, have a very bitter taste and a lot of criticism for tourism. But I do not blame them, Mr. Speaker, because at the end of the day, sir, it is done out of ignorance. It is done out of ignorance of an understanding that although the figures may vary somewhere between 34 and 36% of employment through tourism, and sometimes when you add on the indirect contribution, you can go as high as 50%. Match directly to that, to the GDP. In other words, the money that is brought into this country. So without understanding that, I think it is not given the due. But it is also a fact that the tourism product of this country has been evolving, and it needs to evolve even more. Some critics of tourism point to the fact that we more have a hotel industry than a tourism industry. But when I think of the project here today, the Harrison Cave, the Shaka, and the development, the parks, the water park, the pool, the bungee jumping experience, I think of an expansion of a tourism product, hence a tourism industry. Because all the exit surveys, and you can go back years, sir, and you ask yourself the question, what is it that the tourists come to Barbados for? What is it that they like? And we understand it is not the Chiquita banana. It is not the AC in a hotel room. It is the people, the friendly people, the guard, the maid, the porter, the beach operator, that some of them is take and fly back home with them for all types of reasons, sir. But we understand that they enjoy and they like the people. They also like the relaxation, the beach and so on. But what we have to do and what we are doing is expanding our tourism product to match the tourists of the 21st century. Because there is a new tourist, and I know, sir, that as you move around, you see them. For the first time, you will see and developing a tradition of seeing tourists on the ZR buses, the ZR vans. I see them. You see them in the supermarket. Before, they would have shop at the convenience store at the hotel. Tourism, based on research, and if you doubt me, sir, you can ask me. You can go and see that tourists today are more adventurous. They want a local experience. They have been telling us that time and time again. But because sometimes we don't like to listen, a lot of the time we find that when we are developing industries like this, we do not move with the times. And hence, we have tourists, and we believe that they want to spend the entire vacation cooped up on a beach or cooped up in a hotel. I believe that attractions such as this, that we are debating and talking about today, Harrison Cave, known as Barbados' #1 attraction, as the member for St. James Central put it, it is not just about passing through now. You can have an all-day experience. You can have a part-day experience and then move on to another attraction and spend some more money. Because I know a lot of times we celebrate airlift, which is fantastic. We celebrate arrival numbers, which is great. But the thing that we need to focus on, and that is very important, is the spend, man. Because if you come and you pass through and we can count you 1, 2, 3, 4, but you're not leaving a little berry to develop the society and the country from hence you come to enjoy, then, sir, we are spinning top in mud or even spinning top in sand because we will not be going anywhere, sir. So that is one of the reasons why I had to get on my feet, because I am someone who believes in ecotourism, adventure tourism, community tourism, and I believe that it must be expanded. And it is not about tourism. It is about national development. It is about people empowerment. It is about youth. It is about development, sir. Because when we can get the tourists to come and do their heritage tourism and tour through the city of Bridgetown, and buy some food from a vendor on the side of the road, or get something, or exchange with somebody, and bring economic development to each and every one of our communities. That is what tourism expansion has to be about in the 21st century, sir. And each and every one of us must see ourselves and how we can develop an industry that can develop our nation. It is really as simple as that. Now, the member reminded me of the tourism of yesteryear. He reminded me, sir, of the cave of yesteryear, the indebtedness, the complaints, the petition from the neighborhoods, the dark and gloomy days of Harrison Cave. And then he brought to us the enlightenment of the new Harrison Cave, the redevelopment of Harrison Cave, the development of the road, the new trams. He did not speak about this, but I visited recently with my family. But the new trams, the landscaping, the aesthetics. When you go to Harrison Cave now, sir, you can be proud of Barbados' #1 tourism product, sir. We have something to be proud of when you visit there. And it should be something that should be continued. Now, Mr. Speaker, when we think back of the last decade, you know, people debate, should we talk about it, don't talk about it? I don't care if we talk about it or not. But what each of us in here have a responsibility to is the great decade. So we have seen and we have suffered through the last decade. We must now engineer, pioneer, and lead the great decade. And the great decade, sir, is when we can focus our energies and make proud. Now, when you hear the member for St. Thomas get up in here and commend something and be proud of something, you know that you're on the right path, because she's a hard task marker and a hard marker. So when she is happy and she is proud, yes, I said it and I mean it, sir, you know that we are on the right track and that we have something to be proud about. Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage each member in here to think how whatever their program, whether it be in the ministry or in their constituency, how can you engage with tourism? How can you engage with tourism? Because it's not only about getting the revenue, it is about getting the foreign exchange, the foreign currency. A lot of times, when I think of tourism and the improvements that can be brought to bear, I think of Pelican Village and how much more can be done there. I took a tour there with the chairman of Export Barbados just recently, on official tour, I must say. And I am very impressed with the development and the ideas and the direction that we are taking the BIDC and Export Barbados in. I always had a concern, again, we will count arrivals coming off of a ship. And people pass through and they don't spend a yang or a iota, because they had 7 stops before Barbados, and when they get into Barbados, they get into the port, they get into Pelican Village, they are seeing things that they saw at the last 7 stops. So, Mr. Speaker, because they are seeing those, at those stops, the money is stopping in their pocket. Mr. Speaker, sir, we need the money out of their pocket. We need the support for our economy, our people, and our national development. Therefore, we have got to get creative and continue to be creative as we move and look at the development of not the hotel industry, but in developing a Barbados tourism product and a Barbados tourism industry that we can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, moving through in the city just this weekend, although it was through there few months ago regularly, someone pointed out to me, they said it is the only slave house in the city. Out there just by Cat's Castle, through there. And they said, yes, the tour guides, we all know of Mr. Marshall's work, they pass through, they point to it, it's crumbling. And that is when I say to ourselves, we do not understand what a tourism industry and tourism product is about. But I am glad I am part of a proactive, active administration who that we can raise these things with, because my office was calling from yesterday to investigate and to point out and to suggest ways in which we can now enhance the heritage tourism that can be had from the capital city of the Republic of Barbados. Because we had residents out there that pointed out to us where the slaves would bake the bread, where they would iron the clothes. I must admit, standing in that historic place and receiving that history, on one half of my heart, it was bleeding with pain as I think about our roots. But the other part of my heart was very excited with the potential that we can have to develop such a product, not only for tourists now, but for locals to understand from whence we come. Because when I stood there on Friday, my whole heart, it swelled up with pride. It was swollen with pride, sir, to know how far we come and now we control our destiny. And we stand in the place of these hollow halls and control the direction of what we go and understand that to whom much have been given, much is expected. And sir, I close by telling you, much will be delivered. Thank you very much.
Honourable Member for CDM Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank all honourable members who spoke in this debate. In particular, sir, let me reflect on the very sage comments of the honourable member for St. Thomas, who I think more than adequately captured that spirit that we would want to see in all exercises of this nature, which reflect an effort at partnership with the private sector. As I indicated, sir, in the lead speech, I do not believe that we can have anything other than, or we should seek for anything other than the best possible types of engagement when we work with the private sector, especially in an area like tourism, where, to be frank, we have an immature industry with a breadth of private sector experience and expertise. And it is only logical in circumstances of that nature, I think, to expect that the partnership that should flow would almost impulsively be to now start to play a more leading and entrepreneurial role if you are in private enterprise in that sector. It therefore means the world to us as a government that we can have a partner come into play and focus on things that are obviously challenging for the government, like delivery of tablets and assisting with scholarships for the development of our young people at school. Mr. Speaker, sir, I indicated the importance of having the members of our community be part of the linkages that are built. And the honourable member has confirmed that in terms of craft production and that type of enterprise at a micro business person's level, that developmental type of linkage is part of the discussion that they are having in the community that she represents, sir. All in all, I think that we are on the right foot. The fostering of social cohesion, clearly articulated by the honourable member for the city, is an equally important point. And I think, Mr. Speaker, that with those few words, I would want to urge that this bill pass this chamber and be read a second time.
Read a second.
All honourable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the bill be read a third time.
No, sir.
Sorry.
That I leave the chair.
I beg to move that you now lead the chair. And you also go into committee, resolve itself in the committee for further consideration of the bill.
President, the Speaker do now leave the chair and the House resolve itself in the committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it.
This House is now in committee.
Clause 1.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that, Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clause 1 stand par.
The question is that clause 1 stand apart. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Mr. Chair, I beg to move that clause 2 stand par.
The question is that clause 2 stand apart. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you report passage of this bill in committee to His Honour the Speaker.
The question is that I report passage of this bill in committee to His Honour the Speaker. All members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman of committees is reporting the passing of one bill in committee.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be, pardon? Be read a third time.
Question is that the aforementioned bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be cited as it gives a member, bill be now passed and cited as it gives Amendment Act 2022.
Question is that the aforementioned bill be passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This bill is passed and so cited. Honourable Leader, government business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 1:45.
The question is that this chamber be suspended for lunch until 1:45 p.m. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chair will stand suspended until 1:45 p.m.